I think memorization can be very valuable because it gives me a storehouse of ideas to readily draw from in my everyday life and for writing purposes. Do you have any recommendations for literary works that would be valuable to memorize, e.g., poems, scriptures, plays, play excerpts, and speeches? Yeah, I do. I think that what's so wonderful about memorization and why we should do it so much more than we do is because it populates your mind. It's like having furniture in the room of your mind. And Sherlock Holmes says to Watson, right, you have to be careful what you put into your mind. And Watson finds out at one point that Holmes, he either doesn't know that the Earth, I think he doesn't know that the Earth revolves around the sun rather than the other way around. Or it might be that he doesn't know the Earth is round, but I think it's that he doesn't know the Earth revolves around the sun. And Holmes says, why would I need to know that? It doesn't affect my work, right? It has no bearing on what I'm doing. And I have to be careful about what furniture I put in my mind. And I think that we don't give this enough credit because we think, oh, the internet, everything's out there, right? All the information is available to us and we can just look it up anytime we want. Why would we need to memorize anything? But as I have been saying, right, the point is not for the tech to be as good as possible. The point is for the tech to help you become as good as possible, right? And so unless it's living in your mind and in your heart, then it's useless up there. The machine can't benefit from it. The computer's not reading it. It's there for you to read, right? And this is another, when I talked about that AI thing, there's another Borges story called the Library of Babylon that sort of makes this point that like books, they gain their meaning in connection with a human mind, right? And the human mind can internalize them in a way that actually makes them worthwhile. And memorizing a poem or a piece of scripture is one of the best ways to do that because it will occur to you in sudden moments, or it will work its way into just your sense of the language even. And so this is a wonderful way to sort of nurture yourself in your language and to improve your writing, to improve your grasp of the ideas. And so I wanted to actually read to you one poem that I memorized very young, and that I think is really a consolation to me. So one thing that I use poems for is consolation. And when we start talking about all these grand dreams of the technologists, right, it can get easy to be like, well, they're going to take over the world. And my feeling is like, sometimes bad things happen. Sometimes they don't, right? Sometimes they just evaporate in a puff of smoke. But either way, right, all human endeavors eventually go into the dust. So here's Ozymandias by Percy Shelley. I would recommend memorizing this one. I met a traveler from an antique land, says Shelley, who said, two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed, and on the pedestal these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. It's a short poem, very manageable to memorize, and such a consolation to think, that the pretensions of the monarchs of the world are always evaporated into dust. I mean, we've heard of Jesus, we've heard of Socrates, but not so many of the petty tyrants, right, that lived during those times. So I would suggest that poems which console you, poems which recenter you in what is good and true. Everybody should have one Shakespeare monologue memorized, I think, and or one Shakespeare sonnet, and one psalm. So I have Psalm 23, and then I would suggest the odes actually of Keats have been, if you want something longer and harder, those are just so richly packed with wisdom. So Ode on a Grecian Urn, and Ode. It's funny, in memorization, I'm trying to remember what the other one is called. Ode on a Grecian Urn, and To Autumn. And Shelley has another poem, also the Ode to the West Wind. I'm sort of listing off some of the ones that I have memorized that have been very close to my heart. Ulysses by Tennyson. But find the short thing that will recenter you in what actually matters, so that when the world is chattering around, right, these things might occur to you again. So when somebody comes to you and says, the WF, the World Economic Forum, is going to rule the world and standardize everything, you sort of think, well, around the decay of that colossal wreck, the lone and level sands stretch far away, right? Coming back to that and having that drumbeat in your heart and in your mind is to me part of what memorization is for. So hopefully there's some good recommendations.